the concept of love bombing, right? I will love you intensely at one point with all my heart and soul and everything together, and then sort of then step back. When you see a lot of like couples, you will see that there was an intense amount of love bombing in the beginning, and then theek hai na, ho gaya na, now let's move on in life. Now we are married, so we can just carry on with life.
For many people, if you play the game right, the longer you wait, the hotter you date, or the better you date, which is turning out to be true for a lot of my friends as well. Like their partners at this point are much better than previous partners, and keeps getting better.
Do I have a bunch of friends who are older, who are dating older for sure, and they are loving it. They were like,
yeah,
it totally paid off, because what I have now, I would like not trade in for anything, and this is the one, and I am sure of it.
I'm sure that there's a lot of you who clicked on this thumbnail because of the thumbnail and because it's Valentine's Day. This is our Valentine's Day special of TRS. We have a love and relationship special every single year. I will request all of you to also check out the podcast we did on happiness, which released last week. It was with this same expert in psychology, Havovi Hyderabad wala. In the last episode, we learned about therapy from a therapist's perspective, the mind from a psychologist's perspective, and about happiness from a mental health perspective. This one will dive straight into the world of romance. It keeps getting deeper with every single minute of this podcast. The juice, the nectar of this podcast is going to be present towards the end of it. We put timestamps for every single episode that we release on TRS. So just scan the timestamps for this one. You'll understand where this conversation goes. Spoken about some extremely deep, but also perhaps controversial topics like BDSM, like infidelity, like polyamory. This will be an eye-opening and heart-opening episode. It's a romance special on TRS. Enjoy yourself. For more episodes like this, make sure you follow us on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. Make sure you download Beer Biceps' own meditation app, Level Supermind. We are going to be uploading lots of couples meditations and love-related, romance-related meditations very soon on Level. There's already a lot of stuff present on the app for singles. And I know a bunch of you are single on Valentine's Day. You might be feeling a little low about it. Just flow with life. Don't worry about it. It doesn't mean that love is not coming your way. It means that life is preparing you for the perfect love to be accepted by your heart. As is the case with this episode, I hope that it helps your heart become more ready for the love that is going to enter your life. A conversation about love with a psychologist, Havovi Hyderabad wala, begins now. It's Dr. Love time with Ranveer and Havovi Hyderabad. Welcome to a psychology special. It's a Valentine's Day special.
Welcome back to love.
We're also going to be talking about the dark aspects of love. You spoke about so many dark things outside, about how it's difficult to love openly or correctly in Indian society. Just because of how we've been raised as Indians, there are certain things that happen in our upbringing which then affect our relationships. But also, there's going to be a lot of singles watching this podcast. I don't even know where to begin. I knew I wanted to speak to a psychologist about love, but I have no idea how we should begin this conversation, Havovi ma'am.
Start from, what is the feeling? What's the feeling that's coming up when you hear about love?
How love Shah Rukh Khan in the 90s.
The pose, the man.
Yeah, I mean, at least that's my image of it. You know, Pardes. You know Pardes?
Of course.
Ye dil, Deewana.
Of course.
That movie, Dil to Pagal hai, kuch hota hai, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. That set the tone for what I perceive love to be throughout life. And I've un-Bollywoodified myself over the years, quite painfully, through experiences, through understanding that life is deeply unpredictable. And if you think you found someone you're going to marry, chances are it may not happen. So you can't repeatedly think that. I've had to unlearn certain patterns.
Yeah, and you would find out the hard way.
And then there's a 29-year-old, almost 30-year-old version of me who's unlearned so many patterns, who's learned to be a much better partner to whoever I'm dating,
Right.
who's almost, I'd say, ready for marriage, like a lot of people my age, but also single like a lot of people my age. So that's where I'm at. And I've had lots of spiritual folks come on the show and say that, maybe marriage isn't really needed. Maybe it's a social construct, but I still believe in love. I still believe in marriage.
Yeah.
Because for me, I think my happiest state happens when I'm in a stable relationship. I've just learned that over the years.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, because we tend to love with what we've seen. Like, it's a mirror image, right? If you have grown up in a home which is like very nurturing, very loving, very loud about love, physically, verbally, you will put that out into the world because that's your version of love.
Or if you've grown up in a home that's the polar opposite of that.
Oh yes, then that's
Then you crave
very
it.
distressing. It's also very distressing because you may crave it, but you may not know how to show it. You might end up doing something very wrong without realizing that it's wrong.
Let's talk about the clients you've seen over your course of being a psychologist. Do a lot of people in their 30s and 40s come to you with relationship problems? I'm guessing that is the case.
20s also.
20s also.
Yeah, 20s as well. And it actually doesn't matter what age you are at, like people from different age groups come with different problems of that life period. So, for example, let's say a couple is coming to me and they are between the range of 50s and 60. Okay, they've made it that far, so to speak, right? But they come with a very different problem than the ones in the 30s, the ones in the 20s. So generally the older ones come saying that it's just not working.
At that point.
Yeah, at that point. That is just not working. Like, we would think that they've ironed out everything, therefore they've gone so far. It's not the truth.
Yeah, my mama and my mommy are the happiest couple that I know. And my mommy sat me down once and said, listen, to build a perfect relationship, it takes work every day, including today.
It is a full-time job. You have to go to work. If you want salary, if you want a promotion, if you want to keep it going, if you want to keep growing, you have to show up. Yes, there are days, sick leaves, there are those things. There are people not showing up. And that's why, like, we have a lot of couples collapsing in their systems, right? So you have to show up. Like, do not take it for granted. Do not take it for granted that my partner is patient, my partner is kind, my partner will understand. Yes, to a certain degree, everyone understands to a certain degree. Then before you know it, you don't realize it, but like I said, the system has crashed.
Please elaborate more on the problems people have in their 50s. The f is happening? Like, I'd assume that everything's okay in your 50s. You made it past that 25-year mark of your marriage. So either get divorced earlier, or I don't know what happens. What? Because you change in your 50s as well?
You change every year of your life. And if you change, like, I've seen, let's say, successful partnerships, they grow together. They grow together. It's not that one is left behind, one is ahead of the other one. They grow to understand each other. They grow together, no matter which part of their life it is. Yes, and it's never equal. You want longevity in a relationship, it's not going to be equal. We all learn it the hard way.
What does that mean? It's never equal?
It's never that one will be like, both are understanding. It's not a 50-50. It's not always a 50-50. You will see long-term relationships where it is not 50-50. We would like to believe it's 50-50. And that's the idea and the idealistic viewpoint of it. But it's never 50-50.
Is it a way of saying one of the partners has to take a step back in their careers?
Not always. It could be a step back in many things, not just careers. It could be any points of your life. It could be like some sort of responsibility, some, like moving is a very big commitment, things like that. It could be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be career. It could be just in a heated argument moment that you need to step back. You need to have the wisdom saying that, okay, right now is not the time to speak to my better half because they're going through an upheaval. I don't have to retaliate. I don't have to always give a reaction. Just do like a timeout. Do like a timeout. Check in with yourself, reassess the situation, and come back.
So when you're saying it's not equal, you mean on like a daily basis, every day is going to be slightly unequal.
Every day, sure, maybe there'll be parts, phases of life where it's unequal, but it's there. It's there. We would like to think otherwise, but it's not the case. Like most of the people that come in, one has given way more than the other one. The other one does not realize that the partner is pulling along a lot of weight. So communication is very important. Very, very important.
Yeah.
We all know this, but despite knowing it, there is a lapse. There is a lapse because we don't do check-ins. We just take the process for granted that we're here, we're sorted, family is there, children are there, partner is there, everything's cool, everything's fine. Everything may not be as cool and fine.
I think true love, like the truest, most practical form of love, is about creating an illusion for your partner and making them feel like magic is real. But actually, it's the illusion you create. And if both can do that for each other, great. But that's not the case. That's not how
It's
human
not,
beings work.
because magic ends at some point and
Okay.
reality hits.
This podcast is about that reality, Havovi, ma'am. So we gotta talk about that reality honestly.
Yes.
Divorce rates are going up. Cheating is going up.
Yeah.
It's why so many people my age fear the concept of marriage or long-term commitment. Why is that happening? Why is infidelity going up? Why is divorce going up?
I don't think it's always just about going up, but I think it's just louder now. I think things have existed. It's just that we have become more accepting to being vocal about it. And that's probably what has changed massively. Yes, and people not showing up. Like, if you are married, you need to show up. You need to be around. You need to be there. Like I said, it's a full-time job. Whether you're married, whether you're in a long-term relationship, no matter what it is, whether it's a friendship wala love or whether it is ishq wala love, you need to show up. You need to show up. And people not showing up, people not being there has been one of the biggest reasons. And this is not condoning divorce or cheating, but it's the bitter truth of it.
When you say showing up, you mean putting your consciousness into that relationship, right? Or actually
Yes,
physically.
definitely putting in your effort. Like, even if you are not there, suppose you've had many, and this is a very like chronic problem that a lot of buzzy Indian city couples have, that, they are unable to do even a date night.
Why?
They're just occupied. There's just work. The work ethic now has become so solid that almost everything else also becomes a backseat. And it's the unfortunate truth. It's scary. The world has become very expensive. Everybody wants the best of the best, right? So you need to like be at work.
What about this whole arranged marriage thing? Why are so many arranged marriages working?
Interesting question.
So many of my friends who've actually gotten arranged marriaged, they are much happier than my friends who've like gone down the love marriage path.
So if I had to see like maybe the honeymoon phase of it, right? Like every relationship has different sort of phases, and just in this time, in this generation that arranged marriages are working, I think in the beginning when you get in, there's a huge honeymoon period that happens mostly. Whereas if you see like people who've dated for 10 years and things like that, and I have an aunt who said something very wise. She's like, I don't understand what you all do for 10 years. You date for 10 years. What is it that you do? Like, everything's done. You may as well. Why don't you just get married in the beginning? There is some truth to it. Like, it's very subjective again. There is some truth to it. This works for some people, but it doesn't work for a lot of people as well. Right? So, two perspectives is that I think they have a, maybe a more, I don't want to say greater, but a more understanding start. They don't know each other. There is exploration. There's a lot of romance. There is attempts for connection. So all the things that sort of, break down later on, there's a huge rush of adrenaline in the beginning. So maybe you need to reassess another few years down the line as to like, is it still working? Does it still work?
Fair.
Because the formula is going to change.
Let's switch back to the 20s now.
Hmm.
The clients you have who are in their 20s,
Hmm.
I'm assuming people begin therapy usually in the mid to late 20s. Okay, that's sweet.
20 to 30.
All right.
Yeah.
What are the concerns like? And what's happening wrong, especially when you compare to the older generations?
Two very different people date. And the expectation or the theme or the blueprint that's laid out is that I'm going to help this person change. And then getting so involved and so stuck that you also lose your sense of identity. Like in hope. Hope is a very toxic drug. And it's interesting to talk about these very positive concepts in this connotation, but it's very important that too much of anything can be a bad thing.
A lot of my guy friends my age
Mhm.
who've dated younger girls and
Right.
now have begun to date people like near our age say that they prefer this much more because the older girls are now kind of closer to us in terms of experience and a lack of hope. Almost life kind of beats you up into being a little practical.
Yeah.
I'm just narrating, like I'm reeling
No,
information.
it does happen. Everyone has their like own journey. So one of the things is that yes, different people sort of end up together, and I'm all for being different, but there needs to be a common ground as well. You can't be 80% different and 20% similar. Okay, 20% different plus 80% similar maybe will work much better for the longevity of a relationship.
What counts as similar? You mean like habits, likes?
Yeah, like there are people who like literally have come and spoken about the tiniest, things and issues, and you would not think that in the larger scheme of things that that's a real issue. But it's also the tolerance that you've built up over many, many years, that you've allowed certain things to slip and slide. You've not said it from the beginning. And then people say, oh, but you've changed after we got married. No, I was like this, but
For you,
I did
was
not communicate. And maybe that is my fault now that I realize it, that I should have said it to you. It could be as small as toothpaste यहाँ से निकलता है, यहाँ से नहीं निकालता है. Or like, she did this like this instead of this like that. And they are very petty. But the culmination of, tolerating a lot of little things, then everything getting encashed at one point, that is a very big problem.
I'd probably like to highlight one life hack I saw on the internet. It was on a reel. Someone said that ideally in your relationship, try finding someone who has fun doing the same thing that you have fun doing. So if your fun activities are common, chances are it'll work.
Yeah, that's one of the very like, that is a major hack. Like for, let's say, couples that have floated away from each other and to sort of bring them back closer, that common ground works very well.
What are some activities like this? Hiking.
Watching movies, plays. Go back to the time when you used to date. What were the things that you did that worked? Maybe that's something that you need to sort of revisit. That's very important.
Yeah.
The work did not like stop there. It has to sort of continue. There's also like the concept of love bombing, right? I will love you intensely at one point with all my heart and soul and everything together, and then sort of then step back. And you're like, what happened? So be mindful. I won't say be practical. I'll say be mindful.
Is this love bombing thing very common?
People don't talk about it too much, but it is there. Like when you see a lot of like couples, you will see that there was an intense amount of love bombing in the beginning, and then हाँ ठीक है ना हो गया ना, now let's move on in life, now we are married, so we can just carry on with life. And then that's where the disparity sort of like kicks in, that what happened, this was like this, how did this happen, I signed up for this, I did not sign up for this.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about people in their 20s?
Same thing for everybody actually. Don't think your partner knows, don't have this assumption. You might have to tell them.
This has been a problem for me with some of the people I've dated, that and this, it's something I'm trying to work on over time. But 2-3 of my serious relationships have requested me to know things without them mentioning, and then I say that please say it, if you want this, I'll do it. But they don't agree to that.
Yeah, they don't, because
you're supposed to know.
You're supposed to know. How can you not know? But you love me. Does this mean you don't love me? Is this real love? Oh my God, is this real love? If you don't know what I want, then is this real? Right? And a perfectly good relationship could go down the drain. So it's okay to meet people in the middle. It's okay to tell. That being said, you shouldn't become a parent and have to tell the other person every time what you want. That's also very exhausting.
No, I wasn't that bad as a boyfriend.
No, like it could be for anyone, right? Like you don't want to become a parent in your own relationship and say, okay, now today again, is it ticked off? It's not, it shouldn't be on a to-do list.
No, I hear you. And I feel this whole EQ education, relationship education is very important for our generation. We were talking about how moral science and ethics was the most important subject that we didn't pay attention to in school.
Oh, yes.
I feel this is one of those other modern day subjects. While we're talking about the future of education and learning AI and entrepreneurship, I feel life is also so much about your relationships. And if you are a romantic, it's so much about your romantic relationship and working on it. You're going to spend so much of your life. You're going to sleep next to that person. You're going to, experience trauma with that person. So people need to learn how to be better relationshipers.
They do. They definitely do. And I'm a huge believer that most things start with education, basic education. You start from school, whether it is, topics like mental health, psychology, value education. Like a lot of people my age right now, we are struggling with our parents growing old. Different kind of love. You really have to be at a different level to love the same parents, because they are changing. They're not the same person. So that is very difficult. We always are like, okay, everyone talks about bringing up kids. Can someone please make a manual on what to do when your parents grow old? Because no one prepares you for that. And essentially that topic of value education, that topic of moral sciences, ethics, values, that one free period that we used to have, we called happy period because we used to do nothing at that point, unfortunately. Those were made for this. Those life skill periods were actually made for this.
What do you have to learn about that? Like taking care of your parents? What does it actually entail?
Oh, at a very, very deep level, when people change and change drastically, right? And I saw this on David Letterman's show, and he said something very beautiful and heartbreaking in the same breath. He said, I still go visit my mom. She's 90 years old, but I don't recognize her. I don't know this woman that I'm visiting. All right? And that is a death of a personality that you've known for very, very long. You don't know what to do with this new person. You don't know when you had to grow up, and you don't know when you had to become a parent. So that's very hard. That is why a lot of people say, get married early, have babies early, finish it off all early. So that when you are, let's say, 60, your parents are 85, catching 25, that you have a baby. And there's a lot of peace over there. At 60, if your parents go, for example, you feel like, okay, lived well, live good, can deal with it, amazing. Whereas when you have children much, much older, the journey is very difficult, right from like conceiving to, bringing up kids. The older you become, the harder it is. It is hard.
The flip side of this get married early is that, and I see this with so many of my friends, they're rushing into marriages because of societal pressure.
Yes, it's become a tick box. It has become a tick box. It's like, okay, time up, ho gaya. Like before 30, need to do this. And then they just settle, which is very scary.
What does settle mean?
Means maybe you've just settled with the best thing that you could get at that point in time, or you have convinced yourself, okay, this is the best I can do now. Before 30, if I want to get married, it's not going to get better than this.
I'll tell you one more very harami angle that an older guy told me, and I don't know how true this is, but honestly, my experience, I think I'm starting to see that there might be some truth in it. So he said, for many people, if you play the game right, the longer you wait, the hotter you date, or the better you date, which is turning out to be true for a lot of my friends as well. Like their partners at this point are much better than previous partners, and keeps getting better.
Yeah, you can look at the flip side that I do have a bunch of friends who are older, who are dating older for sure, and they are loving it. They were like,
yeah,
we waited, and while they waited, they were whining, but it's okay. They were like, it totally paid off.
yeah.
It totally paid off, because what I have now, I would like not trade in for anything. And this is the one, and I am sure of it.
What do they have now?
A lot of clarity, a lot of focus, a lot of independence. Oh, there's an interesting sort of, again, Instagram reels, right? Some things are very educational. You have the A person and the H person, right? So the A people are constantly like dependent on each other. Now imagine if this goes away, right? But the H people continue standing. The connection can go away in the H, but they're still left standing. You yourself also are very secure in your skin by the time you reach a certain age.
You're okay with being alone.
You're okay with being alone. You're okay in your ways. Some people are extremely touchwood blessed and lucky that they have a great social support system where they don't feel alone.
Because of the friend groups. Or
Because
family.
of their friend groups, because of where they are in life, because of the things that they do, they don't feel the loneliness. From the outside, it could look lonely, but it's actually they really enjoy their solitude. Difference. Loneliness versus solitude. I can be super alone. I can be very happy. It's like if I put you in this room and I let you meditate, you would just be happy. And that's a solitude that you enjoy. Right? So there is a lot of happiness in that solitude. It feels good when you see on the other side, when you think like, oh, my friends are married and they have babies, and when they bring their children home, and when they come, they have changed as people. You might not recognize them also. And kids, added to that, we all know kids are not easy. We love children, sure, but we also know there's a crazy hardship into being a parent and bringing somebody up that's a life dependent on you. So you're bringing a different version of yourself in. So lots of changes. Lots of changes.
Is it true that two non-toxic people can get together and form a toxic relationship, and one toxic person can date a non-toxic person but still have a non-toxic relationship? One of my girlfriends told me this, who was fine. She was all right. Like, I was all right. I feel like we were two non-toxic people, but we had relationship problems for sure.
So even when you're not doing something, you're doing something.
What does that mean?
Like if you feel like there are non-toxic patterns, I think every relationship has a little what we call gamey feature. We call them playing games. And essentially what it means is that there is a certain amount of negative exchange that happens.
Like what?
I've never come across I've come across very healthy couples, but something or the other goes wrong. If it's not because of them, it's something from the environment can enter and trigger something off.
It's that whole angle of people saying that relationships always need work and you need to come back after your fights.
Sure, sure. But I think everyone needs to decide what their rules are. Like, don't work on the rules of society. Ki, no, you can't. Like, there's a very common one that says, don't sleep angry.
Like sort out your fights.
Sort out your fight before you sleep and all. That is, again, very idealistic in most real life scenarios. There are lots of people who sleep at night and wake up in the morning and then they're just better. They're just better because they need the cool down.
Basically, don't attach too much theory to your relationships. Like all these things we see on Instagram and all. All of it
Yeah.
doesn't apply to your relationship.
Definitely. You need to take what works for you. Just like Instagram, no Instagram, you need to see what works for you. Like, you may think that your parents or there's this power couple and they work and it's sorted. We don't know the nitty-gritty of it. And you need to take away what works for you. You are a different individual. They are definitely something to aim for, but they're happy and you're happy are different. It's very different. So it's not the same formula always.
Are there people in their 30s also who don't find love and then get frustrated?
Absolutely.
So why have they not found love by that point?
Sometimes it's just waiting for the one. And, waiting for the one, they don't allow themselves to explore.
They're not ready to compromise in some things.
I don't know about compromise, but what they want is a perfect package in the first shot. And a lot of people need to understand that there are things that get unveiled when you are in a relationship. Nobody is going to be perfect. You yourself are not perfect. Can't expect it from everyone.
I gotta bring you back to people in their 20s.
Sure.
I have so many friends who are totally into having casual sex. I have friends who are completely on the other end of the spectrum who only believe in serious relationships. And I have a bunch of friends sprinkled somewhere on that spectrum in between. Do you have any opinion on casual relationships? And what I mean by that is casual sex and the impact it has on your mind. Maybe when you're exchanging that much information with those many bodies, you're left with like an overload on your system.
There definitely can be an overload on the system. I'm not against casual sex at all. I think that you need to be a little mindful about how many people sort of keep a track. I'm going to be slightly more scientific about this in the sense that if you do opt for casual sex, because we cannot like dictate what happens in people's lives, right? If you are doing that and if you think that's what you need, understand where is that need coming from to constantly engage in multiple partners.
Where is that need coming from?
It could be from just a sense of belonging, maybe like just to fizzle out extreme stress buster.
Like the hormonal
addiction. So those things are very real as well. So it needs to be maybe looked into. Maybe the personality type also is that it's okay. Impulsive, casual sex is fine. Nothing wrong with it. It's a very momentary gratification. And then when you look back, most of my clients are like, we don't know what we were doing there. Like, we really don't know what we are doing there because it's very impulsive and it's very in the moment. And then it just sort of flies by.
What do you mean it just sort of flies by?
Then
Forget-
it's done and over with.
Raat
It's
gayi,
looked at,
baat gayi.
raat gayi, baat gayi. It's literally like that. But what I would urge people to do is sort of definitely, get yourself checked. Get yourself checked on a maybe 6 monthly basis.
Like a health.
If you are sexually active, go to your gynac, go to your GP, go to whoever it is that you go to and say that I want to check for STDs. I want to check if everything is fine over there. What's going on over there? Sometimes there could be parameters in the body that are excessive. For example, excessive amounts of testosterone, right? That could lead to a lot of aggression. It could also, increase libido, things like that. We don't know. And different people have different sort of addictions as well, right? Just the way we are addicted to substance, you could also get addicted to sex because it gives you such a great high.
I heard taught about this in psychology school.
Yes and no. Yes, as in, yes, we are taught about it in a very technical manner. There's a lot of it that you learn from people out there when they come and talk to you.
When they tell you the why behind the what.
When they tell you the why behind it, they tell you what is happening. This is something that you learn from different perspectives over time. So, like I said, the book doesn't teach you everything.
So I'm going to talk for at least straight men here or straight women also. What is this journey of exploring sexuality? What does that mean? And I'll tell you why. So I was talking to some friends at this house party I went to recently, where someone said that a lot of younger people are very heavily into BDSM now because of 50 Shades of Grey. Like it's become a much more mainstream thing.
All right.
And then someone else who was actually a psychologist said that, do you know the layer under BDSM? Do you know what it means? Like if two people are engaged in what it can do to their minds and the relationship. And then that was a whole unpacking conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
The question I don't want to ask you is, I will talk about this in psychology school. But is that what exploring sexuality means?
Not just about BDSM, and I urge the people who do sort of engage in it. I would say that you all know you're supposed to have like signals and words of like caution that this needs to stop now, things like that. You need to be, again, mindful about engaging because you could get very, very carried away.
Does it benefit relationships? Does it not? Again, is that subjective?
I think it's subjective. And
Okay.
also maybe it's a certain level of, displacement that is happening. Like maybe you are an aggressive person, but maybe not on the outside, but you need to sort of let it out. And the only other way you can do it is in the bedroom with your significant half. That's one explanation. That's, again, a very, very subjective thing.
Why would someone be okay with taking on the aggression?
Love.
Really? Like,
a lot of people actually say that to themselves, that it's okay. As long as you're happy, I'll take whatever you give me.
just love.
Just love. The reasoning is that
Could there be
they might not be okay with it, but they do it under the larger banner of love that you need to do it.
Like my partner is getting pleasure from this, so I'll do it.
Yeah.
You used a word outside, hedonistic.
Yeah.
What does that word mean again? Pleasure
Deriving pleasure from pain.
Could that be a part of it?
Probably, yes.
Like on a very physical, primal level, you're being hedonistic.
Yeah. Because BDSM, so you have sadism and masochism at the end of BDSM, right? So there are people who actually do enjoy the pain. They like that little bit of pain. For some, it's not little. For some, it's a lot. A very interesting sort of percentage that I can tell you. Back in 2009, 10, maybe earlier than that, there were 7% deaths in a Western country. I will not name the country. 7% deaths happened because of asphyxiation in bed. So if you say 100 people died, 7 people died in bed
Wow.
out of asphyxiation. That's a high number. It is a high number.
I'm just still trying to understand the one layer deep version of this. What makes someone hedonistic? Is that the correct word? Correct usage?
Would you mean that what makes someone sadistic or masochistic?
I mean, why would someone
Masochistic.
derive pleasure from getting pain themselves?
Yeah, because it's a addiction. It's like being addicted to a substance. You know the substance is not good for you. It's a temporary high. And a lot of people don't realize this, but they also get addicted to the low that the substance gives you.
Feeling like shit.
Feeling like shit.
They like feeling like shit. That's so.
It's very warped. It's very warped, and you don't realize it till you actually sit with yourself at another level and be like, is this what I want? Is this what my brain wants? Is this what I've done to myself?
Could it be a childhood thing where you were treated like shit as a kid? So again, it's that whole comfort thing what we spoke about.
One of the things.
But it could be some other.
It could be anything, because once childhood goes and you become an adult, you have experienced so much in life that you don't know what it could be.
Damn. Okay. And again, in your experience, I'm sure you've had clients who've like been a part of a BDSM equation. What effect does it have on the long-term relationship? It's again subjective.
I think at a very pro level, they're very happy with their sex life. At a certain point. Yeah. They're very happy that they are engaging in this. It's very spicy for them. There's a rush. It's different.
There's creativity.
There's creativity. There was a whole sex show recently about how someone was making sex rooms. I can't remember the name of the show, but there was, I don't know whether it was on, I think it was on Netflix. And there's an architect or an interior designer who focuses on how can I make this room to the taste of a couple that wants to engage in their version of a sexual script. So at that time, if you are somebody who's into vanilla sex, she would make it very, very vanilla with a little bit of spice. And she would also do this thing of like making people experience a little more spice, because sometimes once you're done with vanilla, you want to know what else is there. So she also introduces them to other subjective experiences where she takes them to different places who know how to deliver, the whole BDSM experience, not in the harsh manner. Like sometimes we think of BDSM as like really beating someone up and someone taking a real
whipping, breaking bottles.
But there's a technique to it. There's a technique to it which is an acceptable technique, and both partners need to be okay with it.
I know that some people have contracts, like actual contracts.
Yes, they do.
Whoa. We began so innocently with Shah Rukh Khan, now we're at BDSM.
Where's Shah Rukh Khan? Call him back.
Wow. What a conversation. This is what I like about the Indian internet. I don't think we were ready for conversations like this even 2 years ago. It's evolving so much.
I don't know how many people will be ready now.
No, they're ready.
I hope so.
The internet has just become very ferocious. So they want edgy conversations like this.
They do. And it's a fact, like it's going to keep changing. Emotionally, sexually, you need to sit, you need to have a conversation. You can't be like, oh, but you should understand. No.
Are we sexually in the age of BDSM? I'll tell you why I say that. I say this to so many of my guests from the world of media. Content generally is becoming so dark, and the dark content is doing better all over the world, in movies, on YouTube, etc.
That's a good point, because darkness is much easier
to create
to be in.
What? To be in.
Yeah. Today, I will tell you, I'll give you the example of people who come and sit in front of me. I ask them, what are 3 good things about you? Tell me. I kid you not. It's a very rare occasion where people will be like, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, and they'll give me 5. Forget 3, they'll give me 5. Right? It's a very rare occasion. But I ask you, hey, what are the things that you think you need to work on? Or what are the things that you feel are not so nice about you? Or something of that sort, right? In conversation, they'll be like, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. The reaction time, the response time is like amazing. If I ask you, tell me 10 bad things about yourself, you will come up with 20. And that's what everybody is feeding on. Is just, and it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope.
Because you can become self-deprecatory.
Self-deprecatory, yes, but also it's just so easy to be negative because happiness is a lot of hard work.
Oh, okay.
Being positive, being happy. And at this point, I'm not even talking about toxic positivity or like, alpha motivation and all those things. I'm not even talking about that. Just day to day happiness. It is a lot of hard work. People consciously decide who they're going to talk to now so that they can feel better about life, because constructing that happiness, that love, it's hard. Sometimes people don't want to do the hard work. They just don't. One is because they've not seen it, and change is just very difficult. It's just very difficult.
Younger people,
Mhm.
college students now, like 10 years younger than me, Gen Z primarily, are way more sexually active. That's true, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Why is that?
I think it's in the conversations, it's how people have projected things outside.
Things have become more open.
Definitely.
Okay. What effect do you think that's having on them psychologically? And I'm not trying to like criticize them. I just generally want to know an objective answer. Is it having a positive effect on them? Because I'll tell you, there's 1,000 positive things about Gen Z. The top of which is that they're not as judgmental as people my age are/were. They're more accepting. Maybe that's a positive outcome of being more sexually active.
It could be positive. It could definitely be negative. I think that sometimes when you're young, and now I'm going to talk from a very like biological perspective of when your brain is developing at that age, and we also come from an age of instant gratification. Everything is a right swipe, left swipe, 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 swipe. You get into bed with someone, that's that. It could mean that they're falling prey to certain patterns which are toxic for them.
Okay.
Which is why we also have things like, okay, at this particular age, you can start voting, for example, or drinking, for example, associating cognitive development along with responsibility, okay, not just rash, right? That being said, there are adults also who are still making lots of mistakes today who are not quite there yet. Point is that, again, be mindful. Whatever you do, be mindful about it. Like, if you think that this is becoming an addiction, if you think this is becoming a part and parcel of your life where every second day you're waking up with somebody different, just sort of take a pause. Take a pause and see what's happening. Is this what you want?
There's this other angle. I have some Gen Z cousins. They told me that being a virgin is very, very looked down upon in Gen Z.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Absolutely.
When we were that age, nobody even spoke about being a virgin. Everyone didn't ask each other about their sex lives. It was
absolutely. And that's something that, so I can definitely share this. I did go abroad to study, and I made a lot of friends from a lot of Western countries. And they could not understand how, let's say, 25-year-old people were still virgins. We had a lot of conversations over a dining table where one of them was this. They're like, we literally get into bed on the first date or the third date. Like, how do you not do this? Right? And on the flip side, we were like, we feel that other things are more important than sex. Getting along with each other, the emotional intimacy, the bonding, that is what is really important versus the sex. The sex will happen. Is sex important? Yes, it is important. So it depends how you sort of look at it. But they just couldn't, like, and this was maybe like 10, 12 years ago that we're talking about that. Oh my God, how are so many Indian men and women sort of still virgins at such an older age? Isn't this something you need to experience when you're much, much younger? Don't you think this is fun? And the perspectives are different. I mean, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing right. One man's wine is another man's poison.
Subjective cultural reality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To the point where sometimes if I would talk to my parents on a daily basis, they would be like, again, you spoke to your parents? And I'm like, don't you talk to your parents? And they're like, no. And I'm like, why? Like, and I'm very like loud and proud about it that, yeah, I just got off the phone with my folks. Like, don't you call your parents? Don't your parents check on you? Isn't that weird? Like, hello? So again, culturally subjective. I've realized, like, sorry, I'm going to take a minute.
No.
I did attempt a podcast with somebody one time. I was traumatized after it. Because that guy was like, you keep talking, I'll ask questions. This guy has information for me, so I can keep going back and forth with him. A lot of new content creators think that this is really easy. And he literally said the words to me, ma'am, aap kuch bhi bol do, public ko sunna hai. And I'm like, I know that perspective is not right. Ye formula mein kuch gochi hai. And I finished the podcast and I said, please don't release this. I don't think it is a good podcast. I will give you somebody else. And very neo-nascent, like I was the second person like he was interviewing and things like that. I'm like, I just want to say this doesn't work like this. And it's mental health. You need to be very mindful of what you are saying. And there was no connection. This guy, such beautiful connections he makes. All of a sudden he's ropes it in, brings me back. It's really, that's why we can go on and on and on, and they can change into their pajamas and we will sit here. It takes a lot of talent to sit on that side. It really, really does take a lot of talent to sit on that side. Be aware of what someone out here is saying, being able to weave it into the knowledge that you have and like exchanging it and saying, hey, this was the neuro version of it and this is the spiritual version of it. What's your version of it? That takes a lot of hard work. It doesn't just come out of, thin air or anything of like that. Like it really comes from a lot of dedication, determination, a lot of hard work.
I think hard work is the main thing because we've done around 400 something episodes now. So I have perspective from a lot of different genres, but I was pretty shit on my 10th episode. It was just questions.
Yeah, which is absolutely fine because you learn what to do and what not to do as well, right? Like with every experience, you realize that, oh, this particular person was like this. Now, what works with this person? Now, 400 people into it, you have an idea of how to sit in front of someone who's a stranger, which essentially is what I do, and sort of have a conversation, and that is not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, the thing is, you said something about talent. I agree because for me, talent is a combination of so many factors from your past. Yeah. So when I talk to my mom today, we talk about geopolitics, history, all sorts of subjects, and I realized, oh, she used to do this with me when I was 5 years old.
Yeah,
that's why I like conversation.
Yeah,
it's my place of comfort.
Yeah,
which is why it's become my content now. But why was I born to that mother who enjoyed podcasting with me in private? And that's one fact. I went to a school which was very conversational. My friends were very conversational. I went to engineering college, which was all about breaking it down. So too many things have led up to this point of becoming a podcast.
Yeah, and it's also a very prominent part of like your romantic life. where
Yeah.
you need that sort of stimulation now that you can't do without, because it's also, and also when you're learning and when you're exchanging information, there's a relationship getting built out here. One of the best relationships that you will see, like, and I've seen over time, and this is not for everyone, but great parental figures have great relationships because of the storytelling. And when I mean parental figures, I don't mean like just your mom and your dad. I could mean your caregiver, your teachers. Why do you love your fourth standard teacher? Think about it.
Great stories.
Great stories. It's literally great stories.
Yeah. That's what I think communication skills boil down to, your storytelling skills.
Definitely.
You can capture that, you're done.
Yeah. Unfortunately, everyone's not good at it. People really lack at it. But there are tools now which help you change the way you communicate. Like, there's a whole different genre of psychology called narrative therapy.
Really?
Yeah. And it's by Esther Perel. And
she's fantastic. And because we're doing this relationship
Yeah.
episode, I highly recommend, if you enjoyed this, go check out Esther Perel's work.
she's absolutely fantabulous. And the things that come out of her are like literally pearls of wisdom. And she is really shaking people up, saying that infidelity exists. Understand why does it exist. She said something very intelligent, which sort of has stayed with me. And we were talking about why has cheating increased, or why has infidelity increased so much. So people are changing, and maybe I like my version of myself with this external partner versus the partner that I am married to. And it's a big dhakka. It's a huge dhakka on the system. But if we're talking about layers, this is a very interesting, important layer to understand. That just because I've completed 50 years of being married doesn't mean we've evolved in the same way. We've had different time zones, probably, as well. And this is a very real thing. Loving yourself while you are in a relationship is very, very important. A lot of people lose their essence, they lose their minds because they've just given the other partner every single thing. Don't do that. That's not love. That is not love, and that will not even last. And another very important thing, and I'm sorry, I'm just
No, go
rambling
for it.
on like this.
मैम आप बोलते रहो, अब लोगों को बस
So I've often seen a lot of good friendships become relationships that don't work. Oftentimes, dependency gets transferred or translated into love.
Dependence on another human being as your friend.
Yes.
You think that
And
that's
they think that it'll be a good relationship. Matlab, for so long we've been friends, I'm sure we can nail the dating. It's not always true. I know people who've been friends for very, very long. They even dated each other. And when it came to being married, they were very different people. Very, very different people. So it's not that just because you could do one, you can do the other one and the other one. You need to identify ki, is this a dependency or is this love? Because that is a conversation you need to sit with an external person and have, because you can very easily fool yourself into thinking, I would never ever do this for anybody else. I'm sure it is love that I've gone out of my way and out of my bandwidth and out of my boundaries. It could be anything. It could be a game that you're constantly playing with yourself. Maybe you've unintentionally fooled yourself into thinking that it's love.
I just want to move away a little bit from all these complexities that we're highlighting
Mm.
and make one very simple point,
Yeah.
which is that I feel, and please correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is just my subjective reality. All the most serious relationships of my life, when I saw those girls for the first time ever, something had happened. Some spark had happened.
Yeah.
And I put all my friends in a whole other category.
Mm.
Nothing has happened to me when I saw my friends for the first time. I mean, they might be very good looking. Just sometimes you just don't feel that attraction.
Hmm.
And while we're talking about all these things related to good relationships and love,
Hmm.
somewhere that person has to make you feel like a little teenager with butterflies in your stomach at the first go.
Call it Zaza Zoo, right? Like butterflies in your stomach, like
Yeah.
that rush of like oxytocin in your system.
Like, who that girl?
Like, what just happened? Like, on the violins, going back to Shah Rukh Khan,
Yeah.
Sushmita Sen entering and the violins going
Yeah.
off. It's exactly like that.
Yeah. Pre-BDSM moments in this
Yes,
podcast.
pre-BDSM moments. Interesting.
But
Hello, Shah Rukh.
yeah. And again, while I think it's important for everyone to know relationship theory, relationship psychology, don't let go of your childish innocence in that process of love also.
Definitely. Like, one of the things is emotional innocence and vulnerability. And if you can be that authentic self to somebody, that's a huge plus. It's a huge gift. It's a huge gift.
All right. For one final micro section of this podcast, we got to address the singles. There's lots of singles watching this. There's a single sitting right in front of you. So, what's
The single life, the good life.
What's the advice, especially on Valentine's Day, when you're feeling FOMO, when you're feeling like you're alone? What's your advice? Havovi ma'am.
Call your single friends, go out, cut a cake, be like, just sort of, there's a reason you are where you are. Okay, it's not in a sad way, but I think, like, again, now the 20s take being single very seriously. The 30s actually like celebrate it. The 40s also, the earlier 40s sometimes even celebrate it, that it's okay, it's fine. I'm very happy being single. Again, solitude versus loneliness. Okay, you really want to cope, you're really not doing okay. Maybe some people have broken up around Valentine's Day, which is like really, really hard, because then your brain comes and you think about what would have happened, what could you have done, etc. I would say that if it's really, really hard, definitely talk to somebody. Don't do this on your own. You have an option to not do this on your own. Okay? Get out, go out with your friends, enjoy yourself if you can. If your version of happy at that time is to stay at home, chill, Netflix, eat a tub of ice cream, do what makes you happy on Valentine's Day, because it's about love. And love is not just with somebody else, it's with yourself as well. So start with yourself. Start from there.
Do you have any suggestions in terms of attracting a relationship into your life? Spiritual, psychological, neurosci based, I don't know, whatever you want.
Well, if you are single and you will feel like you're struggling with relationships, look at a different formula. If you think that you're constantly applying the same formula and that it's not working, maybe there is something else there that you need to look at.
Okay. Thanks. Good podcast.
इतना बोल के बोला thanks हाँ thank you okay bye फिर रिक्शा वाला है okay हाँ thanks हाँ thank you.
So it's fun. I was just showcasing my sense of humor. All the single ladies out there. No, I'm kidding. I showcase my sense of humor in every single podcast, not just in this.
I
one.
know.
It's for that
I've
reason.
seen that, and yeah, have a good Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
Like, no matter who it is, just start with self-love. Really start with self-love. And this is not some like Instagram reel or anything, but really start with yourself. Start with yourself and sort of put it out there. Put it out there.
Havovi Hyderabad wala. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Ranveer.
Thanks for slight dark tangents on this one. The next 2 episodes are going to be about serial killers and about a lot of other dark stuff.
This is just the beginning.
Right. We found a TRS All-Stars, you can tell. Thank you. Namaskaram.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
See you later. That was the episode for today. Helped me a lot. I'm sure it helped many of you. Not going to say too much about Havovi ma'am. All I'm going to say is that she's going to be back on the show. The next time we're going to talk about darker topics. I feel we've just begun to explore the world of psychology on the show. I don't know if this is a domain that the listeners enjoy. I love speaking about psychology. The one request I have of you guys is, if you've not seen our first episode, make sure you go check that one out. And the second request is share this psychology episode with as many people as is possible. The more we spread the knowledge about psychology, the more gentle the world will get, according to me, in the long term. And I feel like this is one of those fields of the future that's now become a field of the present. We're living in the age of mental health issues. We're living in the age of all the world leaders highlighting EQ or emotional quotients. And psychology is the answer to many of these questions that people are thinking about nowadays. Learn more about it, dive deeper into the subject. There's a lot more to unpack. Tell me what you thought of these two episodes down below. And make sure you follow us on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. Our meditation and yoga app, Level Supermind, is now live. Make sure you go check it out. Make sure you go download it. You'll earn yourself a 1 week free trial. And until next time, from Ranveer and the team, we will see you later. Lots of love.